So the filming starts. 7 days into the filming, a drive-by shooting happens right in front of the cast and crew.
Going back and forth, man. Either Jerry goes or I go. And he looked me in my face and said, I can't get rid of Jerry. That was the end of me and Eazy-E's relationship.
Yeah, this is yet another charge for Suge Knight related to the movie Straight Outta Compton. This time he is accused of texting a to the movie's director.
Straight Outta Compton is considered a classic film that chronicles the rise of the legendary rap group NWA at a time when rap hadn't yet become a major part of pop culture. The biopic received positive reviews from critics who praised its performances, direction, screenplay, and musical sequences. However, it wasn't without criticism, as many pointed out various historical inaccuracies. But despite this, the film was a box office hit, grossing over $201 million on a production budget between $28 million and $50 million. Now, this film's production was not smooth sailing. It faced several controversies, including issues with casting calls and multiple acts of violence on set. Tragically, one person was killed. The set experienced a drive-by shooting, and they even had to hire actual gang members for protection. So let's dive into the real behind-the-scenes drama.
So the filming starts. 7 days into the filming, a drive-by shooting happens right in front of the cast and crew.
Back in September 2014, during the filming of Straight Outta Compton, the cameras rolled in the parking lot of the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. Actors playing conservative protesters held up signs saying "Crap Rap NWA" and symbolically destroyed a pile of the group's records with a steamroller. Later, a group of young extras, many of whom weren't even born when Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and Eazy-E were making waves with their politically charged lyrics, lined up outside the auditorium to film a concert scene.
But for those who know the song, raise your hand. Okay, so we're gonna say about half the crowd. The other half who needs to hear it a couple times, raise your hand.
The set was carefully crafted to recreate the late 80s, featuring an old-school tour bus, a retro TV news van, and extras flaunting their favorite throwback hairstyles and thick gold-plated dookie rope chains that were popular back in the day. Dr. Dre spent most of his time in his luxurious trailer, while another producer, Tomica Woods-Wright, Eazy-E's widow, was rarely seen on set. Despite this, there were plenty of opportunities for celebrity sightings. Director F. Gary Gray, who had previously collaborated with Ice Cube on Friday, was seen walking around engrossed in his notes. Ice Cube himself, who also served as a producer for the film, strolled by in his signature dark shades. Nearby, his lookalike son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who plays his father in the movie, was preparing for a scene. Although he was in good spirits, Jackson Jr. politely declined a reporter's request for a photo while he was sporting his Jerry curl wig, saying, "Not while I'm wearing this." Naturally, when casting for Straight Outta Compton began, accusations of nepotism were quick to surface. Jimmy Kimmel even joked with Ice Cube, asking if his son had to audition for the role of Cube himself.
So when I told him, I said, I want my son to play me, he almost lost it. He was like, "Cube, damn, man, I thought we was making a real movie. What you mean?" I said, "Dude, I would not ask him, I would not put him in this position if I didn't think he could do it."
But it wasn't just Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., who was vying for a part in the film. Dr. Dre's eldest son, Curtis, auditioned but did not make the cut. Eazy-E's eldest son, who goes by the rapper name Lil Eazy-E, also tried out and did not get the part. TMZ reported that Lil Eazy was upset about not being cast, but he later denied this, saying he actually helped coach the actor who did land the role, Jason Mitchell. Mitchell even visited Lil Eazy at the Compton home where both Eazy-E and his son grew up, receiving tips and notes to better portray the legendary rapper. However, the behind-the-scenes atmosphere was not always as friendly. First off, for the sake of authenticity, the filmmakers had to shoot some scenes in Compton, where gang activity remains a reality. This decision inadvertently reignited old gang rivalries, causing tensions to flare and tragically resulting in the death of one man. The filmmakers were forced to negotiate with local gangs to maintain peace on set, and this constant threat of violence added a dangerous edge to the production, reminiscent of the days of West Coast hip-hop. Now, around the time NWA was coming together in 1987, the streets of Los Angeles were getting rougher by the day. The Crips and Bloods were on the rise, and crack was flooding the neighborhoods, making things extremely dangerous. NWA didn't just come from this world, they embodied it. Ice Cube even went so far as to call them a gang on their iconic single Straight Outta Compton. But let's set the record straight. Neither Cube, Dr. Dre, nor DJ Yella were in actual gangs. Eazy-E and MC Ren had ties to the Crips, but they weren't hardcore gang bangers.
People gotta recognize is that, you know, we artists, you know what I'm saying? We ain't thugs, you know, looking to hurt nobody.
The group's goal was to transcend specific gang affiliations, which is why they chose the neutral LA Raiders colors of silver and black. However, wearing neutral colors did not mean they could always steer clear of trouble. Over the years, they encountered minor gangland skirmishes. Things got really heated when Dr. Dre teamed up with Suge Knight, who was affiliated with the Piru Bloods to create Death Row Records. Suge and his crew had a reputation for using force to get what they wanted. Dre grew tired of his colleagues being shaken down, intimidated, or even beaten up. So in the mid-90s, he decided enough was enough and left Death Row to start his own label, Aftermath.
It was mostly just the way the studio was, you know, and that's where I have to spend most of my time.
This East Coast, West Coast nonsense is just getting ridiculous, you know. It's just like another form of black-on-black crime.
This was the beginning of Dre's transformation from a Compton kid to a music mogul. He produced mega stars like Eminem and 50 Cent and co-founded Beats, the headphone company that was sold to Apple for a whopping $3 billion in 2014. Dre moved far away from his old life, settling into Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen's former mansion in Brentwood. Even though Suge Knight still believed Dre owed him $300 million, Dre could at least breathe a little easier behind the gates of his mansion with a restraining order providing some added peace of mind. But it's never easy to completely escape your past, especially when your roots run deep in a place like Compton. The city's turf is divided with a military-like precision. Dre, along with Eazy-E and MC Ren, grew up in the southeastern part of Compton, which was Crip territory. The group often practiced in the garage behind Eazy's mom's house on South Muriel Avenue. Lil Eazy, Eazy-E's son, hoped the filmmakers would shoot these scenes at the actual house, which is still owned by his grandmother. However, the filmmakers decided against it and mostly avoided the east side of Compton altogether. Gangland negotiations had a significant influence on this decision. The filming took place in areas controlled by the Bloods, primarily on the west side of town. They didn't have a pass to come in our hood, explained Arnold White, a close friend of Eazy-E who grew up in the neighborhood. This complicated situation might have played a role in a drive-by shooting that happened near the set by the Compton courthouse shortly after filming began in August 2014. Gang signs were reportedly flashed, but luckily, although one bystander was injured, the cast and crew were unharmed.
So the filming starts. 7 days into the filming, a drive-by shooting happens right in front of the cast and crew. I guess a group of men standing outside the Compton courthouse were flashing gang signs at a passing car, and then the car turned around and just opened fire.
That's Compton.
Dr. Dre tried hard to win over the Compton community, giving away headphones and football uniforms, and even announced that his royalties from his new album Compton, which was released alongside the movie, would go towards funding a performing arts center in the city. But when it came to the actual filming of Straight Outta Compton, things were a bit more complicated. They needed someone who knew the lay of the land, so the producers brought on Clay Bone Sloan, a Bloods affiliate, to help navigate the tricky terrain. Bone, who had appeared in the movie Training Day, was there to keep things authentic and keep locals' tensions in check. According to a lawsuit, his duties included recruiting known gang members to serve as cast members and extras for the filming, as well as to provide security for on-location shooting in gang-controlled neighborhoods. Bone had a long-standing beef with Suge Knight, spanning more than a decade of bad blood. One of Bone's tasks was specifically to keep Knight away from the set. Unfortunately, this hiring decision would turn out to be deadly. After taping a promotional spot for Straight Outta Compton at a Compton barbershop called Holiday Styles in January, the crew broke for lunch and headed to their trailers on North Bullis Road, a Piru-controlled area. Knight showed up in his Ford F-150 Raptor, which sent Dre's team into a panic, according to Bone's account to the police. Knight approached Ice Cube's head of security, Kibo, calmly saying, "I come in peace. I didn't come down here to start no problems. That's why I came by myself." Kibo later told Esquire UK, "I want to request a meeting with Cube, and it don't have have to be today. He was cool, collected, not looking for trouble. An insider who wanted to stay anonymous said Kibo assured Knight that his compensation for allowing an actor to portray him in the film would be sent soon. But before anything could be peacefully resolved, Bone showed up and got in Knight's face. They had a heated exchange before the sheriff stepped in and Knight left. Knight was heading home when he got a call from Terry Carter, a local guy with his fingers in a lot of pies. Carter worked on Low Riders and had started a record label called Heavyweight with Ice Cube. He offered to help smooth things over between Knight and the filmmakers. They met near Tam's Burgers on West Rosecrans Avenue, talking through their car windows. But Bone, who had apparently followed Knight, arrived too. He jumped a fence and started beating Knight through his truck's window. In the chaos, Knight sped off, accidentally running over Bone's ankles and tragically Carter, who had stepped out of his car.
The January 29th incident where Knight's truck apparently runs over the two men. The truck backs up, hits one man. Seconds later, the truck comes back and runs over.
Now it's up to a jury to decide who was the aggressor, Bone or Knight. Knight was locked up downtown on $10 million bail facing a charge. He tried to convince authorities that he was simply fleeing for his life, not trying to run anyone over. Meanwhile, the filmmakers of Straight Outta Compton faced a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Terry Carter's widow, Lillian Carter. The suit seeks unspecified damages from Universal Studios, Dre, Cube, Tam's Burgers, and others. It alleges that the defendants knew or should have known that putting Knight and Bone in proximity could lead to a confrontation and collateral damage. In addition, Knight allegedly issued multiple threatening warnings to the film's director F. Gary Gray during filming.
Yeah, this is yet another charge for Suge Knight related to the movie Straight Outta Compton. This time he is accused of texting a to the movie's director.
Though Gray would later testify that he couldn't recall any calls or texts threatening his safety. Deputy District Attorney Cynthia Barnes suggested this was intentional perjury, possibly out of fear. Knight was supposedly furious about how he was depicted in the movie and felt slighted that he wasn't compensated for his portrayal. The production faced public relations issues. In August 2014, a casting call for actresses was widely criticized as racist. The memo categorized women by their looks and skin tone, with A girls being the hottest of the hot, B girls needing to be light-skinned, and D girls expecting to be out of shape with medium to dark skin tones. The message was clear: the darker the skin, the less attractive the actress. This caused an uproar and cast a shadow over the production. MC Ren, one of the original NWA members, was also upset. He felt that the marketing for Straight Outta Compton didn't give him and DJ Yella the recognition they deserved. Quote, "F these be at Universal Pictures leaving me out of the movie trailers trying to rewrite history," he tweeted. His outburst seemed to work, as the subsequent posters included all 5 group members' names and faces. Filming Straight Outta Compton became a lot more intense than anyone had anticipated. The production's effort to stay true to the gritty reality of NWA's story brought its own set of challenges, making the movie a high-stakes venture. NWA member MC Ren even commented that the film is 80% accurate, which is quite an endorsement considering the difficulty of balancing historical fidelity with dramatic storytelling. Now, getting the film made was no small feat either. S. Leigh Savage, who started writing the script back in 2002, described it as a miracle given the complex relationships and tumultuous history of NWA. The stakes were incredibly high for the $29 million movie, but the filmmakers and cast were determined to honor the legacy of NWA, even if it meant navigating a minefield of controversies and real-world dangers. For those of you who don't know, NWA were only together for a brief, intense moment in time. Just a year after dropping their groundbreaking debut album Straight Outta Compton in 1988, their star lyricist Ice Cube decided to leave the group. By the time 1991's E Phil for Zaggin came out, the group had disbanded completely. Their split was not exactly amicable either. Ice Cube released one of rap's most infamous diss tracks, No Vaseline, where he called the other members Uncle Toms and took brutal shots at their manager Jerry Heller. He rapped lines like "Get rid of that devil real simple, put a bullet in his temple cause you can't be the guy for life crew with a white Jew telling you what to do." The fallout continued with Eazy-E and Dr. Dre going head to head in court and through their music. Their respective label representatives even got into physical fights.
I said, listen man, all of this going back and forth, man, either Jerry goes or I go. And he looked me in my face and said, I can't get rid of Jerry. That was the end of me and Eazy-E's relationship.
Eazy-E's death from complications related to AIDS in 1995 did help mend some of the rifts, but it also sparked a new battle over NWA's legacy, a conflict that still lingers today. Enter Esley Savage, a white filmmaker into this turbulent mix in the late 90s. He began interviewing people connected to NWA for a documentary that eventually played a significant role in shaping the screenplay for Straight Outta Compton. The documentary, Welcome to Death Row, was released shortly after 9/11 and has sold hundreds of thousands of copies. It's also been widely aired on cable networks like Starz and Fuse. Creating this documentary was a wild ride for Savage and his Hawthorne-based company Xenon Pictures. In their quest to tell all sides of the story, they inadvertently got caught up in a heated feud between Suge Knight, the founder of Death Row Records, and Michael Harris, an imprisoned drug kingpin who claimed he provided the initial funding for the label. Death Row had released Dr. Dre's iconic solo debut, The Chronic, in 1993, so the stakes were high. Savage recounts receiving threats from people he believed were working with Knight, prompting him to move the documentary's editing facilities to a secret location for safety. As the film's release drew near, a lawyer for Death Row Records tried to stir things up, sending letters to retailers like Walmart claiming the documentary Welcome to Death Row included unauthorized content. Suge Knight was relentless in his attempts to stop the film's production and release. According to Savage, quote, Suge mounted nothing short of a Herculean effort to halt the making and release of it. Despite these hurdles, Savage was determined to bring an NWA biopic to life. Along with his collaborator Alan Wankes, he kept digging for more information even as the project seemed to stall. They caught a lucky break when NWA's manager Jerry Heller agreed to be interviewed. However, even Heller started doubting the film's chances as the writers churned out around 20 drafts of the script. Heller said, quote, "This is never going to get made, is it?" Savage recalls. At that moment, even Savage wasn't sure. But he knew one thing. The film needed the backing of Eazy-E's widow, Tomica Woods-Wright. Eazy-E and Tomica had married just weeks before his untimely death, leaving her in charge of Ruthless Records, a powerhouse label that had produced platinum records for artists like Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, the DOC, and Eazy-E himself. Most crucially, she held the rights to NWA's music, which were essential to getting any major studio interested in the film. Savage managed to get the script into Woods-Wright's hands through a mutual connection. Miraculously, she was on board. He remembers her saying, "You captured Eazy. For us to be in business, it must be God's will." The script's success owed a lot to some savvy screenwriting. Savage and Wankes knew they had to highlight Eazy-E's role to get his widow's approval. Once New Line Cinema picked up the script, they insisted that Dr. Dre and Ice Cube also be involved. Cube was already a big deal in Hollywood, and Dre's influence in the music world was still massive. Eventually, Universal Pictures took over the project. Cube had always been interested in an NWA movie, but the relationship between him and Dre was complicated. They had reconciled a few times over the years. Cube made a cameo in Dre's 1993 Let Me Ride video. They began to work on a never-released album called Helta Skelta, and there was even a brief NWA reunion around 2000 that produced 2 new tracks. Yet, as Cube bluntly put it in his 2013 song The Big Show, "Did I talk to Dr. Dre? Have I seen MC Ren? Every now and then, please don't ask me again." At first, Dr. Dre was not too keen on the idea of making a movie about NWA. Quote, "I don't want anything to pour water on my legacy, so I was against it at the beginning," he confessed on his Beats One radio show. The scripts he read initially did not impress him. They seemed kind of cheesy to him. But Ice Cube managed to change his mind, convincing Dre that the project had potential.
About it, you know, I was worried about it at the beginning.
Why were you worried? What do you mean?
As a matter of fact, I didn't even want to do the movie.
Really though?
Cube actually quarterbacked it. He went out and got the first draft of the script done.
Dre was finally on board when F. Gary Gray signed on as the director. Now that Gary is on board as director and it's at Universal, I think it's going to be incredible, Dre had said years ago.
We could turn this into something. And then when Gary Gray got on board, that was it. I was in.
Despite his initial reservations, Dre became deeply involved in the project, quietly managing the process to ensure that he and his group were portrayed in the best possible light. To achieve this, 2 more writers were brought in, with Dre overseeing their work closely. While the final product might not be a perfect historical reenactment, it's very much the way Dre and Cube want to present this, according to Savage. However, not everyone was happy with this approach. Jerry Heller, NWA's former manager, felt particularly slighted. Dre and Cube had publicly accused him of skimming their earnings, a claim Heller vehemently denied. Feeling sidelined and Heller was angry he wasn't consulted for the project. He feared his portrayal by Paul Giamatti would make him look like a villain. Quote, "I will be there in the front row with my lawyer making sure it's an accurate movie," he told the Murder Master Music Show. Heller's bitterness only grew as the film's release approached. He told the LA Weekly he wasn't invited to any previews and would have to buy a ticket like everyone else. He was gearing up to have a lot to say after watching it. The tension between Heller and Eazy-E's widow Tomica Woods-Wright adds another layer of drama. After Eazy's death, Heller and Woods-Wright were embroiled in legal battles for years. Heller claimed he was owed unpaid management fees, while Woods-Wright accused him of fraud and misuse of Ruthless Records funds. Eventually, they settled, signing mutual non-disparagement agreements, but the animosity lingered. Despite all this behind-the-scenes turmoil, the movie turned out to be a massive box office success, raking in over $201 million on a production budget of between $28 and $50 million. Straight Outta Compton did not just make a splash financially, it also garnered critical acclaim. The National Board of Review named it one of the top 10 films of 2015, and it scored an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. On top of that, it took home the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Motion Picture at the 47th NAACP Image Awards. The film even inspired Dr. Dre to drop his third studio album, Compton, which debuted at number 2 on the US Billboard 200 album chart just a week before the movie hit theaters. The soundtrack album, packed with NWA classics, shot straight to number 1 on the rap albums charts and also topped the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. The film didn't just stop there. It smashed records too. It set the record for the best opening by a film with an African-American director, a title it held until Gray himself surpassed it with The Fate of the Furious in April 2017. By August 27, 2015, Straight Outta Compton had become the highest-grossing musical biopic of all time in the United States. The accolades kept rolling in, with numerous award nominations, including that coveted Best Original Screenplay nod at the Oscars. That's it for today. Until next time, bye.